Hello, friend. Come, stay a while, for I have a tale to tell. A tale of what, you may ask? Well, a tale of far-off worlds. My worlds. Worlds from a place only very few know. These worlds are worlds of magic, excitement, wonder and darkness, the great battle between good and evil, heroes and villains, monsters and men. These worlds are split up into 4 quadrants. One of dreams and imagination, where your people come to explore. Another of dark prophecies and shadowy kings. Another of magic and power, stars and enlightenment. And the 4th, king of the 4, with an expanse of many, many stories. But I wish to tell of all of them. I wish to share with you a small few. For these are not just tales, but tales of the verse. Destiny. What is it? Mere fate or chance? Luck or fortune? There are not many who can tell. Some suppose it is a road that cannot be walked away from, that no matter what you do, it will always happen. Then there are others who suggest that destiny itself is a choice. Whatever you choose, that is what destiny will become, and that is what you will make it. And there are others who believe it does not exist. It is only by one's choice, pure alone, that life goes on. Now, whether these are true or not, it mattereth not. For on the world of Ethren, the world of destiny, here the people believed something quite different. When the worlds were formed, the Creator looked upon them and was pleased. And it was upon the world of Ethren that he was pleased greatly, for the people of Ethren, split into 10 races, had chosen to follow the light. As a gift, the Creator presented his mighty sword, the Sword of Destiny. There he gave it unto them, and the sword was broken into 10 pieces. Each race took a piece and formed it into a blade, each commanding a part of destiny. However, wars were waged, battles fought, for the greed and pride of the darkness crept in, and there the blades were fallen into the earth and swallowed up, to be lost to time. For ages the swords would at times be found, and at other times they would be lost. No one could ever tell where they were or where they could be found. It was as if destiny itself would choose its time to shine. And it is here now that in the 5th age, thousands of years later, that destiny smiles upon small individuals in a kingdom known as Matar. Riches and splendor abound. The city of Matar was one of the greatest cities in all of the lands of Ethren, a continent far and wide on the planet of Ethren. Matar was known for its fine goods, cloth that could only be found in the finest weaves, and gemstones of the largest and grandest scale. Center of all the land, it stood as a mighty citadel, a beacon of both prosperity and unity. Matar was ruled by a noble and peaceful king, King Aldrich II. It was through his wisdom that the kingdom continued to prosper. For before in the Fourth Age, the kingdom attributed most of its success and wealth to the dwarves. For to the east, there lied a kingdom, once known as the Kingdom of Thar. It was under the leadership of King Thoric, descendant of the dwarven Lord Thar, that the Kingdom of Thar had prospered successfully. Yet, in the Fourth Age, many did succeed, and many did fall. The one hubris of the dwarven lords was that of their abundant wealth. For though they shared it with the kingdoms nearby and afar, the dwarves were at great risk. As Thoric had grown in wealth, so did his pride. He felt that he was lord and master of the great mountain range from the central lands all the way to the northern regions. However, this stood as a challenge before a great and mighty foe. And as time and history have told, the Kingdom of Thar fell, and in the clutches of another did it now be ruled. Matar survived, and unable to defend and help their ally to the east, they continued to revel in their wealth, passing on from the Fourth Age, and then beginning a new age with prosperity and a vastness of wealth. But even though they had survived the Fourth Age, a question remained. The foe that lied to the east, would he gaze upon that which is in the west and take it for himself? Or would peace remain? That question lied now with the king.
Flame and shadow burn, it shall burn in fire and flame. Flame and shadow.
The king awoke with a start. Sire, what has happened? Flames, shadow, flame, shadow. My lord, what has happened? There are no flames, there are no fire. What is it? Sire, speak plainly. Shadow. The king, sweating as if he had been through a mass of water. He felt himself drenched in sweat. My lord, there are no flames. Fire! It burns! The shadow, it was over the city. My lord, calm yourself. What is it that you saw? The king turned slowly towards his advisor, his eyes fixed upon him, his mouth muttering in the silence. And as he leaned closer, he said gently, dragon. Crows had carved this morning, a bad omen in the kingdom of Matar. The people were already superstitious due to the recent events of the king's nightmares. Rumor had spread, especially since the king had sent word that all heroes, warriors, sellswords, or mercenaries should come to the kingdom of Matar at once. They would receive a great reward for a mighty quest.
What do you think it could be?
I'm not quite sure, said the baker to the seamstress. It could be just an excursion from the orcs.
He's had nightmares, Baker. I dare say. These are dark times. Who could really be sure what is going on?
I suppose. People in the streets were having conversations just like this all over. From the guards whispering to each other in the great halls, all the way down to the peasant speaking to the innkeeper. It was clear that something was amiss. Suspicion, as well, became a strong toxin within the city, for as strange folk wandered in and out, the people began to speculate. Could it be that the king has some strange magic upon him? Perhaps one of these strangers could have done it. Perhaps that fellow. Entering into the city gates was a tall, strong, and broad-shouldered man. He had long, blonde locks, a golden, fierce beard, and piercing blue winter eyes that could stare deep into one's soul. He was mostly pale, scars carved into his flesh, and blue tattoos swirling down and up his body, across his chest, around his arm, and wrapping around his neck to his face. This was a Nord, and Nords were not a common thing in these lands. The majority of the race of men were made up of Thracians, or the Manthridians. For a Nord to come down to these parts was very unusual. Many noticed him as he wandered in, his fur-lined coat wrapped around the right side of his shoulder, and the fur skin hanging as a covering over his loins and legs. He certainly was a fierce man. Not only were his clothes of a strong look, but it was his mace, or hammer, that lied on the side of his left leg. Yes, this was the true sign of a Nord. It was a strong steel hammer. Carved into it were runes on the shaft of it, and on the mallet there bore 5 gems on either side. They did not glow nor shimmer, but bore the faint distinction of a little hue of color. No one could quite make out what color that was, but it was certain he was a man of not only great stature, but of great wealth from where he came. However, Soman was not accustomed to wealth. Simply in his lands, it was very common to put forth rare jewels and gems inside one's weapon. It was a sign of both skill and knowledge in warfare. The Nords were very accustomed to battle. And Soman noticed the eyes peering upon his hammer, and most of all, him. Becoming uncomfortable, he began to cover up the mallet, using the cloth from his shoulder. Wrapping it around, he further made himself look like half of a bear and half a man.
Anyone traveling through the Eastern Pass? Guide for sale? Come on now. Any of you looking for a way through the kingdom of Thar? Don't be daft, love. You wouldn't make it one day afar. Come on now. Only a few coins. Only a few coins.
Saman noticed the dwarf calling out to the masses of crowds. He noticed he was not a normal dwarf. Most dwarves, even in the Nordlands, bore heavy armor or a look of mining, craft, or skill. Now, this dwarf did have a form of skill, but it did not look like that of a masterful dwarf. Dwarves were skilled in mining, in carving, in masterfully making the finest of weapons, armors, and all manner of ornaments. However, this dwarf looked quite ordinary, despite him having a long mohawk across his head with hazelnut hair and a well-kept beard. He did carry some of the usual distinctions of dwarf: large ears, a crooked nose, and as well sturdy, strong hands. But his armor was not well kept. In fact, it was not armor at all, so Mon noticed. It was fine clothes that a bard would wear. Quite strange, for most dwarves were not bards. They did sing in their halls of great stone, but they would never take up singing as a craft. However, in the lands of Eldrin, bardicship was not that of just singing. It is of great knowledge, historical knowledge, in fact, and they were well respected in every hall and kingdom, no matter their station or how much reputation they'd obtained in the local inns or in the throne room.
You, sir! You, right over there! Come on over. You look a little bit lost. Did you just wander out of an inn?
Saman noticed that the dwarf was pointing at him. It was quite clear. And rather than walking away as if to ignore him, his honor got the best of him. I am not lost. I am only looking for the throne of the king in this city.
Ah, you're a sellsword. I heard the Majesty had, well, called forth some warriors of old and new. Pray tell, where do you come from, stranger?
Saman, hesitant, said simply, up north, not far from here.
Oh, really? I'm from north myself. What part do you come from?
Well, if you must know, dwarf, I come from the Nordlands, past the Imperial Sea.
Oh, now that is spectacular. Quite odd to find folk like you. Don't tell me you heard about the king's request all the way up there.
No, I am simply traveling. Heard it at inn in the village of Matan.
Oh, quite interesting. I know of Matan, but I didn't realize word had spread so quickly. King must be hasty.
Indeed. It was then that Saman noticed that the dwarf had a distinct halberd hanging off of his back. It was nothing to boast over, though it was a smaller-sized halberd. It was a weapon that had seen some battle, but nothing that could show forth its quality. It had a chip in the blade, and as well, it was barely scarred. Saman figured that this dwarf had only seen or encountered possibly a wolf or a fox on his travels. Nothing to boast over. Well, dwarf, if that is all your business, I must be going. I have other matters to attend to.
Ah, yes, yes. Of course, of course. Totally understand. You got business with the king, high and mighty. Well, if you change your mind, I'll be staying at the White Mare off yonder place. Perhaps if the king needs of assistance of a guide, you can throw in my name. Boric's the name. Boric Softfellow, at your service. Well, I'll let you go.
So Mon parted ways swiftly and journeyed further into the city. There were many peoples and races of all kinds throughout the city. So Mon had noticed that there were elves of some, dwarves of others, many races of men, and a few odd-looking characters. He had never seen the Argians, lizard people of both south and east. He had even noticed stranger folk, some with magical ailments, those with flaming hair, others of tall and large stature, minotaurs, some half-giants, and the very few Jita. Jita were cat people. Some had stripes like that of a tiger, others of spots like leopards, and very few were of the plainest of colours, blacks or greys or reds or yellows. They were of a more mischievous nature. Some were very well known of pickpocketing or stealing. They even were gifted with the skill of silver tongues, easily able to coerce a fine tradesman into giving them a better deal than they deserved. And their eyes would often be like a lantern in the dark, glistening and gleaming. Even in the daytime, their eyes seemed to catch the most lonesome of wanderers. And indeed, it caught one, for Soman locked eyes with a stranger, a Jita, tied in roped bonds, guarded by 4 soldiers. This Jita was a female, black ebony fur, a scar across her snout, her long black fingers like that of a spider's, and her eyes a rich golden yellow, with the black slit, that which you would see on many cats. But hers was so striking, so bold, they locked onto Soman so tastefully. It was as if she wanted to eat him. Though Jita did not eat other people, her eyes seemed to want him so badly, as if she hungered for 4 meals. Soman quickly glanced away. He did not wish to stare nor draw attention to himself. For whatever reason, within him he felt that what was on his mind was of the greatest secrecy. He rushed forward through the crowds, bumping into one person after another, feeling the hastiness building up inside of him, eager to reach the throne. If only he could... Ah! Watch where you're going. Forgive me, Soman looked up and saw one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen. She was an elf, a fair-looking elf, with a reddish blonde hair that seemed to both darken and shine in the light. Her clothes were that of a green and brown cloth, leather armor strapped around her body, and a bow slung to her back, as well as a quiver of arrows hanging to the right hip. Yet the most odd part about all of her was that of a purple scarf wrapped around her neck and hanging to her side. This was not common for elves. To have such rich colors must have meant something far greater. Forgive me. I did not notice you in the crowd. Of course you didn't. Nords and their strong heads, is it? That is bold to say from an elf who seems to speak to a stranger she knows not. Andriel looked down and peered back up. Her fist clenched, but her face softened. She said, "Forgive me. I have journeyed far to reach this kingdom. I did not intend to offend another wanderer." "I apologize as well. I'm trying to reach the center. If you'll excuse me, I must be going."
"Oh, I'm trying to reach there as well. Perhaps..."
She paused, for a moment thinking.
"Perhaps I can accompany you. I myself am also trying to reach the center."
Intriguing. Well, come along then. I must reach there soon. They began to wander together through the city square and past one of the great arches of the city. As they passed through the many peoples, they spoke to one another, sharing of their journey to the great kingdom of Atar. Soman had learned that this elf was Andriel. She only had shared that she was a ranger, having wandered in the eastern woods, and heard from a friend that the king had sent forth a message to all the neighboring lands. Something to the extent of, "Help needed. Heroes wanted. Great threat threatens the kingdom." I had heard a similar message, but in the village of Matan up north. I did not realize it had spread all the way to the eastern kingdoms of the elves.
"Well, in a way, I was simply in an inn nearby, not too far from here, past the mountain range. I did not cross over through the kingdom of Thar, too treacherous through the mountains. But I did reach an escort who led me through the desert wastes."
That's quite a day's journey. You must have heard it before me, for us to reach here at the same time.
"Indeed. Quite odd."
One could almost suggest... Before he could utter another word, a man in great armor stepped forth, putting out his hand and said, "Halt! You cannot enter this way. Please, state your business." Soman and Andriel looked at each other, and in a quick response, Andriel said,
"We have come to speak with the king. We demand audience. We have heard the message spread throughout the land."
The man looked towards her, eyeing her for a moment, and with a sigh of relief spoke. Thank the gods. Well, we've been expecting you. Please, follow me. I was expecting a little more, since the king had sent it across the south, west, east, and north. He had insisted. I suppose you two will do. Soman quickly spoke. What is it exactly that the king has desired for us to do? He did not say a thing for a moment. What felt like an hour had only been a few minutes. When he finally turned back as they walked up the steps, the man spoke and said, It is better for the king to say. I am simply the captain of the guard here.
Then it must be of great importance, if we are to only speak with the king about it.
Indeed, indeed. Either way, you'll find out what you need to do. My word of advice, though, do not excite the king. Every time he speaks of this great quest, as he puts it, of the utmost importance, he says, he gets rather heated. Or, well, I dare not want to say it, but the soldiers say, mad. Soman thought of this. Madness. He had heard rumor throughout the crowds of people, something to do with dreams. It intrigued him greatly. Madness.
This would not have anything to do with the dreams I have heard so much about in the city. The captain turned back, stopping on the final steps. So you've heard it. Well, I suppose then you might know already. Just do not excite him. I fear lest he might grow even more weary from his woes. Well, I wish you luck. Enter through the doors, and remember to bow before the king while in his presence. The captain stood away, and the doors opened. The two approached the throne and entered the great halls of the king. Great tall columns reached 25 feet high towards the ceiling. Windows with great sunlight pouring in. Torches on every side of the hall, and banners hanging from the top. They bore 3 emblems on either side. One was that of a rich blue, with a black obsidian raven hanging in the center of it. The second was a green banner, with a white-shaped ram's head, intricated with an emblem shape of a circle around it. And the third, a red blood banner, with a golden lion's head placed upon it, and hovering above the lion's head, a crown with 3 spires. At the end of the hall was the throne, carved with a lion's head at the centerpiece, and the throne itself was perfectly carved, made of a white stone. It seemed to slightly glow in the sunlight, but it also felt somewhat sad. For whatever it was in the throne room, there was a heavy presence of great dismay. Near the throne, almost sitting near it, was the king. His crown, what was of rich silver, now was a faded grey. His cloth as well, though a fine robe, also seemed to be dark in the light. And standing high above him was a Shumba. Shumbas were mushroom people. Some would regard them as quite hideous, but others would say they were quite frightening. Their eyes were sunken with a bright glow, especially those attuned to magic like this one. They had long arms, tall legs, their body made of a strong, thick fungus. And often, their mouth, where it should be, was replaced by a strange moss or an odd carved lining. This Shumba in particular was quite intimidating. He had faded blue-grey robes and a tall staff, not as quite as tall as him, but almost reaching. It had a dark black-blue gem wrapped around by the branches of the staff, and he himself was that of a pinkish grey, with a browning top and yellow spots. As the doors opened, he turned slowly, staring across the hall towards Soman and Andriel. The king, however, was more excited to see them. Rushing across the hall, he came forth before the two of them and exclaimed, "Oh, finally! Warriors, more warriors! I have truly been blessed." As the king approached them, they quickly took a bow and came before the king. "Your Highness, I am Soman. I fall from the north." "Indeed, you have fallen quite far. If you are not, then I must assume you have come from across the seas. Quite perilous.
quite perilous.
Indeed.
And pray tell your name, my lady.
I am... Anriel stopped, as if fishing for an answer. Soman grew slightly concerned. He knew what she had told him before in the halls below. Why now is it that she could not answer? I fall from the Eastlands, towards the Elven Kingdom.
Oh, how marvelous! I did not even expect the elves to hear our message so soon. Are you part of the Elven Guard, perchance? You do look it.
No. You're mistaken, my king.
Oh, well, regardless, I am quite pleased to see a boy of your kingdom come forth to assist us. I am quite pleased.
The king seemed to stare almost aimlessly, with a great smile on his face and tired eyes. Yet it was as if he had lost all consciousness, for as he stared, his stare became more blank.
My king.
The Shumba approached. Somar, getting more tense at his presence, noticed how tall he really was compared to Soman. The Shumba stood as tall as 9 feet. Soman had never seen a race of creature in all of the lands, unless they were giants, to be so tall. Not only that, the Shumba was a quite strange appearance. He had only heard of them, but he did not expect them to be so insidious in appearance.
There is no time to stare.
Oh, yes, you're quite right. Oh, and where are my manners? My dear Andril, Soman, I introduce you, one of the great mages in all of the land, Tokokliam, High Mage Shumba of the neighboring lands. Studied at the magical college towards your lands, Andril.
Indeed, I have heard of his name. It is a pleasure to finally meet you.
The pleasure is mine, my friend. I have come here on the king's request.
Well then, perhaps your magic will serve us well in whatever endeavor we are about to embark on. Just then, the king's face grew pale, as if reminded of some terrible thing he had forgotten. He quickly grew distressed.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The terrible thing.
He wandered back to the throne, the other 3 following slowly. As he sat, the king looked up in grave despair.
I have not slept for many a night. I have grown weary of a dream that has pressed upon my mind.
A dream? Soman inquired. What kind of dream?
The kind that is all too real.
The king leaned forward from his throne and began to turn towards the window, staring aimlessly, and for a moment nothing was said.
These nightmares, I've seen them every night. You see, I have dreamt of the city in flames, a fire burning from the sky, casting a great shadow upon all of my people.
He turned back, his eyes bloodshot.
These nightmares begin with a darkness. I hear a voice calling out a phrase, something in Dwarvish or Orcish I cannot tell. The phrase is Kal Druk Roer Varuk. Soman looked at the king intensely. Kadruk Roer Varuk? He asked intensely. Yes, that is the phrase. Do you know of it? It is old draconic dragon language, my liege. The king's eyes widened. No, then it is all too true. What is? Anriel asked. The dream continues. For as these words cry, I hear the words speak of flame and shadow and ash. And then I see it. His eyes fixed across the room as if he could see the dream coming alive. What? What do you see? I see him. Who? The dragon. The room fell deathly still. A word was not uttered, no sound made. The Shumba looked at each of them, noticing their blank stares at each other.
It is but a dream. Dreams have many meanings, many interpretations, my king. Yes, as you have said, Toko. But I know for a fact that this is a warning. A warning? You believe it is a warning that a dragon will attack your city? Not just any dragon. The dragon. The king quickly got up, rushed to the window, and pointed to the east. The Mount Thar, the bane of the Dwarven Lords, Drakius. Soman said nothing. Andriel, with her fists clenched and her eyes fixed to the ground, said nothing. I do not believe that this nightmare, my lord, is anything we should be concerned about until I prepare magic that will be able to— You have tried your magic, the king spoke up, rushing towards Toko. You have tried and tried and tried, but it is no use. We have tried magic of all kinds, and medicine, none of it has worked. This, my lord, Toko spoke up, is not any reason that we should lose faith. Magic has many capabilities, my lord, and there are many things we have not tried. I am tired of trying what we have already sought to do. It is time to take action. Soman looked towards the king. My king, I would be willing to help you, for I feel it is destiny that has brought us here. Destiny? The king's face lighted up, as if he had heard the magic word to save him from his despair. You see, destiny was of the culture of all peoples in the world of Ethren. It was as if saying the Creator himself had come forth and told them that this was divine providence. Destiny was the key word for any king's ear, especially one in dire need. Then, if you feel it, and if I feel it, my lord, Toko spoke, I do not believe we should become so hasty. This destiny we feel, it is perhaps the excitement— You dare question destiny, my dear friend? Soman said sharply. Destiny overrules all things. It is what moves the world itself. It is what we are made of.
True. But I do not believe that we should act so carelessly.
At this time, Andrew had been listening intently. But as the last words were spoken by Toko, she spoke up. I must agree with him. We do not know if these events will take place. We do not even know if they are true. It may be coincidence.
Coincidence?
Destiny is at the footstep of our door. This is providence. This is the fate of the world. Toko looked at Soman with great concern. He could tell that something was nagging at him, something pulling at his strings.
My dear friend, you are too involved in this so quickly. What is it that would cause you to be so passionate for the king's concern?
Soman did not speak for a time. But as he glanced to the floor and then back up at Tokulium, he said, I've seen places fall, when people have not acted upon the visions, at times given by the gods or given by destiny itself. This is a warning the king is having. Omen. The crows outside are a part of it. And how could the crows be involved with this? Anriel said. It is an omen in the Nordlands that crows represent a time of both death, ill will, or some form of change.
Yet, a form of change is not always dangerous, nor is it negative. Perhaps this is simply a warning not to interfere with these matters.
And yet we are here, Soman exclaimed. This is a sign. I know of it.
And how is it that you know?
Before Soman could respond, the king put up his hand. Enough! I have called forth you warriors. I am in need of your assistance. This is my darkest hour. This is the kingdom's greatest need. I have tried everything, and so far, in my heart, I feel that the greatest thing that must be done is to slay Draegus.
My king.
No more! Either you will help me, or I will find others who will. The room was at a standstill. Even the guards felt it. No one dare say a thing. For a moment it seemed as if no one would. I will go, my king. I will slay the beast, and I will bring peace to your mind. The king looked at him with such zeal and joy. Ah, yes. Thank you. You will go with my blessing, and you will be greatly rewarded, I promise, by my name, and by the line of my forefathers. You shall be rewarded. Hesitantly, Anriel stepped forth as well. I shall join him. I do not know what will come of it, but I have had experience with dragons. Perhaps my skill will favor us both. Wonderful! Oh, wonderful! And what of you, mage? What will of you do, Tokilium? Toko did not speak for a time, and as he looked at the king, who had eagerness in his eyes, the hopefulness that he would say yes, Toko said.
I will go. There is no need for reward. It is the custom of my people to do that which is good unto others. I will assist them.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Wonderful. Destiny smiles upon us. There is no doubt that this is fate.
Wandering through the streets, the three of them were accompanied by the captain of the guard, for the king insisted that they would take with them soldiers to represent the kingdom and their standards. The blood-red cloth bearing the golden lion was quite the sight, hanging in the city streets as they walked through the crowds of people. Many of the citizens began to whisper and speak with each other, for they knew that something was about. This random group of strangers, moving and protected by the captain's guard, moving towards the gate. Everyone could tell that this must be an answer to the king's request.
I'm surprised you chose to accompany us, dear friend. I thought you to be truly against this quest.
On the contrary, I believe it is of a great concern. But I believe that we must rely on the skills we have, and not on our fears.
Well, if your magic isn't working, I would highly doubt that your skills, as you say, will help us in this hour of need.
Things that are rushed are often collapsed.
Either way, as long as we are working together, I am quite at ease. As they continued journeying through the city, Soman had taken notice that the Jita was gone. No longer was she under the protection of the guards, nor were the guards there. But as he peered forward, he remembered something. He stared at an emblem bearing on a hanging sign. The white mare. He remembered the dwarf. If we are venturing into the kingdom of Thar, then I suppose we would need a guide.
Yes? Do you know someone?
I do. Come with me, Toko. Captain, we'll be back in a moment. As you wish.
Soman led the way. Heading into the inn, Soman had taken notice that there was quite the hustle and bustle within. It was a merry group, people singing and laughing, eating and drinking, telling of stories and playing games, and the innkeeper with a large, grand smile on his face, welcoming the strangers wandering in.
Now, where is your guide?
Right over there.
Off in the corner, drinking out of wooden cups, was a dwarf, old Boric, drinking away, laughing with others, but still quite alone.
Oh, why, hello there! I didn't think I would fancy see you again. Well, I am here, and I am in need of your assistance.
Right. Well, will you need some traveling plans? Or perhaps would you need a song to be played along your journey? Or are you looking for some information?
Well, I'm looking for a guide. That is your greatest skill, is it not?
Oh, yes, it is. But you never know. I'm a man of many talents.
So we can see.
Said Toko, harshly. Well, you're a bit cheerful. Haven't seen a Shumba in most of my life. Where do you come from, stranger?
From the east. But that is not why we are here.
Soman looked at him disappointedly. Turning back to Boric, he smiled and said, Now, where exactly are you a guide to?
Well, I know these lands like the back of my hand. Though, then again, I tend to find new scars there every day. But regardless, I know all the lands to the mountain ranges to the east, the Kingdom of Thar, as well as the northern reaches up near where you came from, if I dare say, Matan. And I know a little bit near the creeping woods in the south. And to the west, well, we would need you for a guide through the Kingdom of Thar. Oh, really? Usually when I get paid for that, it's through the southern or eastern passage. I believe that is probably where you would like to go, isn't it?
Well, not exactly. We were hoping we could get closer to the mountain.
The mountain?
Boric grew quiet, his face pale, and it was as if, as he took another sip of his drink, that it did not taste as well as it did before.
Well, that's a dangerous road. Best not go that way.
Why is that?
Well, bandits, I believe. That sort of thing.
Well, that is why we were going. Toko looked towards Soman, and then looked at Boric, waiting for his response.
Really? Bandits?
Boric said in disbelief. Yes, bandits. We are being sent on behalf of the king. Toko looked at Soman with great intensity. He could not believe what he was saying, but, playing along, he turned to Boric and said,
Yes, this is true. We are doing it on behalf of the king. It is believed that a shaman is among them.
A shaman? Oh, that's what the dreams have been all about. And they're located near Mount Thar?
Yes.
We need your help, my friend. The reward would be immensely great. The king would be willing to pay handsomely for anyone who would help us on our journey. Well, I do not know. Well, you can't just go around that mountain causing a stir. You don't know what you would awake.
Well, it is our quest. And whether you come along or not, we'll be getting paid. Now, is that something you would desire or not? Borg thought for a long moment. He did not know what to do, nor what to say. After a few sips more, he looked up and said,
Well, I must be your nutter. I'll be your guide. I agree to help you.
Wonderful, Soman exclaimed. Toko, still staring at Soman with displeasement. Then we must go right away. Do you have everything you need?
Oh, yes. Always carry everything I need on my back. My pa always used to say, if you ever need a hammer, a tool, or a piece of cloth, you can always find it in your bag on your back.
The journey began long and arduous. Borg would sing and laugh as he led the way, riding upon a small pony, while the others rode upon horse. The journey would begin with hills and fields, and then, crossing over a river, would reach into the Great Wood, entering into the lost kingdom of Thar. As they crossed over, Borg began to point out the small details and the history that lied before them in the kingdom of Thar.
Ah, yes. There is so much to know about the kingdom of Thar. Where to begin? Where to start?
Borg pulled out his lute and began to play a tune as he spoke.
Ah, yes. Now I remember. It was said in the olden days the dwarves migrated down south, that they could carve their way into the mountain. Indeed, it is believed that King Thoric himself went into a cave in the mountain, and he found a gem there. He believed that that must have been a mark of something, a mark that this was their home. They carved and mined for days, and it seemed that they went deeper and deeper and deeper until they came across the finest of jewels and gold. Quite amazing, if I might add. Remarkable. I wish I had quite the sight of a king.
Are you not of kingly descent? Anriel asked. I've heard that many dwarves can follow their line back to any of the dwarven lords. Borg paused as he still continued to play.
Well, sometimes, I believe. I don't really know myself, but my pa would always tell me the stories. I wish I were like Thoric, courageous and brave.
Well, you seem quite brave to me to come along on this journey with us, Saman added.
Well, you're too kind, dear sir. Perhaps I'll play a lordly tune. Should I play the old tune of Bane the Great Wolf Slayer, or should I play of the tune of the Thundering of the Gods?
Saman thought for a moment, recalling the old hymns and ballads once sung in his ancient Nordic language. Do you know of Marion the Red?
Marion the Red? Oh, you like to go for a more, intimate and bloody side of things. I'll play us a tune.
Marion the Red. What a beautiful song, both dark, seductive, and dangerous. It was written by an old Nord poet. It spoke of a woman with fair red hair and fair white features. A tattoo, bluish green it was, they say, like sea foam. It was said that it was like a serpent, going across her right eye, down across her chest, swelling to her back and all the way down to her foot. The legend goes that Marion the Red, though a beautiful fair maiden said, tore down halls of kings, for she was their ruin, deep within these things. She would cry in battle and call forth warriors of old, and she would slice down a beast and bring back its gold. And as tale had it, Marion the Red was loved by many, though she only laid with one who had her heart. It was him, O braven King de Bard. Or Marion Red. What a pleasant tune. Very nice. I remember when my father taught me a little bit about the songs of my peoples. Very rich they were. Very... An arrow hit the side of the tree as Borg spoke. All of them rushed off at their horses, pulled out their weapons, and saw what was before them. Orcs, bandit raiders. Moving through the brush, they rushed right at them. "They are upon us! Raise your weapons! Raise them high!" The captain commanded. Each of the soldiers drew their weapons, swords and shields and spears. Aligning themselves into a circular motion, they prepared themselves for the battle. Soman rushed forward with his hammer, while Anriel stood back with her bow. Toko, on the other hand, did nothing. He did dismount his horse, but he stood behind the soldiers, watching as if it were entertainment for his eyes.
Come at me, beast!
Soban slammed his hammer against the skull of the first orc, crashing him down to the ground in one hit. Anriel loosed 3 arrows, bringing down another cluster of orcs. The main group of orcs, however, rushed right at the advancement of soldiers and engaged in battle. Several soldiers fell at the first swipe of the orcs. They used clubs and axes and were quite merciless. They screamed and roared, tearing down any soldier they could get their hands on.
Hold the line! Hold the line!
The captain commanded.
Do not break formation!
The captain went in quickly upon his horse, swiping with his sword left and right. One head fell, and another arm dropped. The captain pushed down 2 orcs and made the advancement.
Charge!
The remaining soldiers got to their senses and made the advancement. Soman continued to break and slam and push back the orcs. As for Boric, he stabbed only a few and screamed at them hastily, though he looked as if he were a madman, for he had never fought in a true battle before. Anriel loosed more arrows, bringing down 3 more orcs.
Hold the line! They're retreating! Follow them into the bush!
The soldiers chased after the remaining orcs, and as the dust settled, the battle was over.
Well then, not much of a fight.
Indeed, the captain replied. They almost seemed unaware of our presence until we stepped into the brush.
Wait a moment,
Soman replied.
Is that a carriage?
Yes, the captain replied. It looks to be. Between 2 trees, a broken carriage leaned against the bark. It was broken, the wheels chopped off, and within it, something moved.
This must have been an ambush, but there are no soldiers nearby.
Yes, perhaps all dead. No, there's something in there. Let's take a look. They raised their weapons, slowly inching their way to the carriage. And as they parted the cloth, they found Vegeta.
Get me out of these binds, or I will cut all of your throats.
Soman had recognized Vegeta. It was the one from before, the one he had locked eyes with.
Get me out of these binds.
Soman smiled with pleasure.
Well, destiny is smiling upon us. We have found someone to help us in our quest.
You can't be serious, Anriel said as she approached. She is bound. She's clearly a criminal. She was being escorted out of these lands by your soldiers.
I'm inclined to agree, Soman. It would appear that she was being escorted by my men. In fact, I remember that we caught a thief not long ago. This must be it. Where was she being escorted to? Desert Kingdom. Has some bounty down there, I believe. Had to get her out as soon as we could, with all the other messes going on. I suppose the orcs ambushed my men when they were unaware. Let us hope, so that honor may be with them in their death.
Soman crouched before Vegeta.
What is your name?
Vegeta stared at them intensely, with an anger and fury in her eyes.
And why should I tell you, Nord?
Because if you value your life, we will spare it.
Some call me Azari. Azari Kuntina.
Well, Alzari, Quintina, we are making our journey through these woods and through this land in hopes of finding a... He paused for a moment, noticing that Boric was listening in. A orc encampment nearby. If you assist us, you'll be greatly rewarded by the king, and perhaps even exempt from imprisonment. Alzari thought about this for a moment.
Perhaps. What sort of payment?
Gold, if that is your price.
What if you gave me diamonds?
The captain grew tense. I mean, no such thing. Not from the king's own treasury. That is for the people.
As if he doesn't already have enough. I have seen those rich kings like him hold away all of their riches that they may prey upon the rest of the peasants.
And what of you?
Enril spoke up.
Preying upon those peasants you speak of. Are you no better?
Alzari clenched her teeth, showing them off like a predator about to pounce.
You would be wise, girl, not to speak.
She then noticed the purple cloth hanging from Andriel.
You have a touch of royalty on you.
Saman looked up at Andriel. Andriel's face grew pale, but then flushed with red as she pulled out her bow and arrow.
You would be wise to hold your tongue.
Andriel! Saman interjected. We need her alive.
Why? Why do we need to discuss this? She's a traitor, untrustworthy thief. Look at her. She's even claimed that she would slice our throats in our sleep.
True, but I believe this is destiny.
Destiny?
Toko interjected.
Is that truly what you are thinking, my friend? To add this, as Andril puts, criminal?
Is she no better than us? We should spare her life. She could be of good use to us.
I got to agree with the rest. This does not seem like a good plan, and you did not pay me enough to be along for the ride with a criminal.
Do any one of us have the skill to be able to sneak around in the places we're about to be? We need her. All we need to do is keep her under our feet. Turning to Alzari, Saman spoke. If we make a pact, you must stay with us. And if you choose to betray us, you will be hunted by the gods for all the days of thy life. Reaching out his hand to Alzari, Alzari hesitated, not knowing if this bond would be in magic or simply in word.
I suppose I will make your pact.
Her hands wrapping around Soman's mighty fists. It was as if a snake slithered around that of the paw of a bear. Then we have a bond. You, Alzari, swear to me you shall serve us and be a friend and ally.
I swear.
Good. Then it is done. Taking a knife from his back pocket, he cut the binds, and Alzari was now free. She had taken one of the horses of the fallen soldiers. They had buried what dead they could and continued on their journey.
With nightfall falling, everyone in the group had grown more tense, now being accompanied by a strange friend.
Ah, all right. This is as far as we'll go. Unless you really want to pay me a few more coin to get up the mountain.
No, this will do. Borg, disappointed, hopped off his pony and said,
Well, all righty then. Best get a fire going. Got to keep back the beasts in these lands.
They had stopped and rested near an old ruin, a dwarven statue, as large as a building from the city of Matar. It was crushed and broken, on its side with half of it gone.
Ah, well, I best start playing a tune. Boost our spirits for tomorrow. I suppose we'll get to Mount Thar in no time.
Everyone began to ease down. Alzari, watched by everyone in the group, was simply staring at her dagger, sharpening it with a stone nearby. Soman rested near Toko, while Andriel kept a close eye on Alzari. Borg kept the farthest away from everyone else, afraid that Alzari will get to them while he hides in the shadows.
I am still estranged to your belief in this idea that everything was meant to happen.
It is, my dear friend. Can't you tell? You have to bear the signs, you have to see them, using your eyes.
With your eyes, I am not even surprised. They barely have any darkness in them. No shadow, no crevice.
You sound like my father.
And what is it about your father that brings this remark?
He was a strong man. His eyes were more of a green. They didn't pierce like mine, more soft. I have my mother's eyes, he said. And he always remarked that you're too stubborn. You get your head caught up in the clouds. You'll break the storm with how much you get caught up there. Old fool.
You disrespect your elders.
On the contrary, I honor them.
Please, pray tell.
Well, it is an old custom that wherever you go, you bring the peace of your family with you. No matter what it is, you bring it with you across the seas, into the waters, into the mountains and their caves. It matters not. As he said this, Soman touched his hammer. With a gentle and caring touch, as if it were a piece of glass, too fragile for a hard touch.
Both very honorable and very strange. We believe simply that the spores of our ancestors are within our veins.
Interesting. And these spores, are you truly related to mushrooms? Toko turned harshly, staring right at the Nord. Soman stopped his laugh and grew silent.
Relax, my friend, relax. It is only joke.
Soman loosened. Ah, yes, I see.
Our people are the living earth, as we call it. We are not mushroom. It is like comparing a beast to you. It is not same. We are living. We are breathing. And though there is life in the shroom and life in the trees, we are true. We are the keepers and carers of the lesser living world.
Reminds me much of the gods. The teachings is that death itself and life must care for each other.
Indeed, for we are all dying and living, and so we must be keepers of both.
The rest of that night fell quiet. The fire fell still. And as all of them drifted to sleep, Soman saw a dream. The crushing of waves, the thundering of a monstrous storm. It was the sea, Soman standing upon the rock. But he was not as he is now. No, he was a boy. He is a boy. So young, and such soft and feeble hands. Staring across the water, Soman could see it. Grey clouds, thunderous lightning, and black sea. And a voice.
Head to the south. I shall guide you there. I shall lead you there. Find the one in the south.
Soman awoke with a cold sweat. Morning had broke.
Are you all right, Soman?
Yes. It's just a dream. Toko stood next to him, staring intensely at him. What is it?
Nothing. Come, we must ride.
Everyone gathered their things, their possessions and food and provisions, strapping them to the horses and prepared for the ride. It was then that Soman noticed how many soldiers they had lost. They came with 15, and now there were only 8. Such loss,
Indeed,
Toko replied.
but it is all for the better. Their bodies shall bless the earth, and the earth shall bless those to come.
They journeyed through small cracks and crevices, between rocks and trees, down hills and up hills, past streams and rivers. In the distance, they could see it. The mount, far and wide, connected to the rocky spine of the mountain range. Oh, there it is. Still quite hauntingly beautiful. Can never ever get over the sight of it, especially in this morning hour. Yes, quite beautiful. Now, Dwarf Master, how much farther is it? Borg turned to the captain with displeasement. It's only a day's journey now from here. With however quickly we're going, I'd say we'd make it. Probably, well, tomorrow night, I reckon. The captain's face grew more concerned. Well, as long as we're able to make it there in one piece. Glancing back at Alzari, she turned her face towards the back of her horse. Soman took notice, but did nothing, only watching to see what she would do. As for Andrew, she kept an even closer eye on the cat, glaring at her every minute or second she could get the chance. Alzari, however, took notice to this.
Is there something you are looking for, Shiel?
Andrew, put off by the statement, leaned back and, trying to put it off as if it had no effect on her, replied,
As if a common thief like yourself could easily provoke me.
Alzari grinned.
Oh, so cocky, so cocky. I wonder, where did you get that such fine cloth?
Anriel tensed. It's none of your business.
None of my business. Oh, so coy. Perhaps Azari could pay the right price to have it?
No! Anriel snapped.
Well, I did not expect you to be so touchy.
Anriel looked at her with a great fierceness. You would do well to keep your tongue behind your teeth. It is simply an heirloom, a kindred gift. Alzari continued to eye her, looking at the scarf and looking at the anger that she had put upon her.
A gift? Well, I would certainly like to perhaps exchange it, or I would certainly do anything to get it. I would perhaps get rid of an enemy, or steal something you've wanted, perhaps for a lover, someone close to you.
Before she could utter another word, a dagger was thrown towards her neck, and there Anriel, shaking her arm, and in great anger yelled, I would have you cut, and I would tear your tongue from your mouth, you insolent Anriel! Soman spoke up. That's enough. She's only trying to tempt you. And rightfully so. She's a pig, a monster, a beast. The company had slowed. The soldiers were on edge, clenching the hilt of their weapons. Easy now, Anriel. Easy now. Soman approached, hopping off of his horse and steadily taking a step towards her. There's no need. She's only trying to incite conflict with you. Don't listen to her. Pay no mind. Anriel continued to stare ever more at Alzari. Fine. She lowered her blade. Alzari, with a sigh of relief, continued to grin.
It is no worry. I shall search for another cloth.
She rode past her, and Anriel, realizing her fault, drooped in shame. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Anriel, is there something that... No, there isn't. They continued on. The rest of the journey was in silence. Borg said nothing, nor did he play a tune. There were no facts or thoughts about the history on the Dwarven Kingdom. Only the rushing of the river, the cawing of the birds, and the silence of a fallen kingdom. That night, not much of the company could sleep. This was especially true for Simon, for in his sleep he heard it again.
Search for the one, and you shall find me. Search for the one who breathes the flame. Search for the one, and you shall find me.
Toko was staring straight at Soman before anyone else was awoken.
Another dream, friend?
Soman quickly got up. Caught unaware in his anger, he disregarded the question and snapped back. Are you always staring at people in their sleep? to even rest?
At times, yes. But I can sense when there is movement, even while I am in the deepest of sleep. And you are more restless than anyone here.
It is not of your concern what my dreams bear.
On the contrary,
Standing taller over Soman, Soman felt the great shadow cast over him.
I should know. I am the one in tune with the unseen world. I am the one who knows of the arcane arts. And as for you know nothing but battle and fear and destiny, as you say.
The air grew tense. But as everyone began to awake, the conversation ended. The rest of the journey was relatively easy. But as they came to the edge of the mountain, Boric dropped from his pony and onto his knees.
Oh, good heavens! I couldn't believe it. It's right there. It's right there.
Have you never seen the mountainside, Boric?
Oh, I have. But, well, only at a distance. Never get this close. Never have.
Boric thought for a moment, and then turned back to Soman.
So, about this orc encampment, what side of the mountain did you say it was on?
I didn't. Well, I'm not completely sure, to be honest. Boric thought for a moment and stood up.
Well, it's easier if I know of a direction. Are we sending a scout or two, or...
Toko, leaping from his horse, unhappily approached Soman and said,
It is time you told him.
Tell me? Tell me what?
Soman, jumping from his horse, angrily stared back at Toko. Nothing. He speaks of nothing. Now, let us...
No! Enough of this. You tell him, or I tell him.
Soman, getting angrier at his comments, began to realize they rang true. He turned to Boric. I'm sorry, my friend. I have lied to you.
Lied? What did you lie about?
We are not here to destroy an orc encampment and a shaman. I lied to you out of fear. If you knew what we were going to do, you would not lead us. And I believed, turning to Toko with a disappointed look, I believed that you were fate for us, to help us on our journey, to guide us, so that we may not get lost.
Then what is it that you're really doing here? What is it? Don't tell me. No. Don't tell me you've come here for...
Yes. Yes, we have come to slay Dragius, the dragon. Boric, realizing now that his fears were true, could not believe the words Soman had uttered.
You lied to me? How could you do this to me?
I don't know.
Do you realize what you're about to do? You can't face him. This is not right. This is a fire breather.
Dragius fought for 3 days against this mountain, and he conquered it. He fooled the dwarven lords. He made them think they had won, and when they dragged his body into the cave, because of their own greed and pride, he tore it down. He scorched the earth, and he melted their blood in the gold. I did not mean... You do not mean to do what? Lie? Use me for my own skill and craft? I should have known better. I should have known. How could I have trusted you, a stranger that I've only known for 3 days? This cause is noble.
Is it?
Toko spoke up.
Is it truly noble? How do we know that this is destiny? How do we know that this is right?
Indeed, Anriel approached. It seems to me that we have been on a fool's errand. You've trusted everyone that we've encountered. On the whim that destiny is guiding us. How could you be so blind? I am not blind. I know that you know what? That you have led us to this mountain on behalf of the king to slay a dragon. His nightmares. They're just nightmares. They're nothing more, laddie. We can't go in. There is no point in going in. There is no victory in this fight. And what of you, Captain? Do you too doubt this quest? Do you doubt the king? The captain said nothing for a time. I don't know what to believe. If all of this is true, then all I can say is this. I am here on behalf of the king. And if we decide to fight the dragon, I will fight the dragon. But if we choose to head back, I will not argue. So Mon fell quiet. All of them staring at him, waiting for his response. And as he looked up, his eyes more intense and more alive than they had ever been since their journey had begun. He spoke with a thunderous voice. I know that this is destiny. I know it is. It has spoken to me.
Spoken to you?
Toko asked.
What do you mean, spoken to you?
I have heard in a dream the voice of one calling out, who has spoken of the dragon, who has spoken of the Southlands, who has spoken for me to come and find them. They are in the mountain. I believe they are there. How can you be sure? Anriel replied. I do not. What I do know is that within that mountain lies our destiny. The king has had dreams, and so have I. This is not random chance. This is destiny. The seeds, the crumbs are falling before us. They're revealing their truths. I enlisted the help of Alzari and Borik, for they came onto our path, for I felt in my bones, in my soul, that it could not be just mere coincidence. I had been led here by the dream, and hearing upon the account that the king had nightmares, that he had requested for warriors to that he'd called them for aid, I knew in my heart that it must be true. This is why
the voice is calling for me. We are here to save this kingdom. Anrio stuttered.
I must agree.
Toko turned to Anrio in great surprise.
I have come here, for I too have felt a stirring. I thought it was only my imagination or my own feelings. I was a captain of the guard over the Elven Kingdom in the east. I was close to the king and his son, and when I had fallen in love with him, I was banished, for common blood cannot be with that of the royal family. And so I was cast aside, dishonorably stripped of my rank and station. And I wandered the woods. I joined the Rangers. And when a general of the army came to me, he had told me of this quest. But I did not believe it to be destiny until I began to feel a stirring in my heart. And now I cannot deny it. This is destiny.
You see? And what of you, Toko?
I still am unsure of the uncertainty of this quest. However, I feel, whether it be my feelings alone, or it be the stirring that you all feel, I feel I must assist, lest all of you may fall to a fiery fate.
As this was said, Boric stood. All right. If this is the way, then I ought to be a part of it. I thought, no, laddie. I must confess. I am a bard. Nothing I have said is a lie. But I have always felt the shame of all the dwarves. All of us have felt it. Of that of the dragon. I would be remiss if I did not honor my father, my kin, and my fallen king, whose line has been lost all these years. I must do my duty. Let us slay the beast. Then it is decided. We shall slay the dragon. Till our last breath.
Till our final blow.
With our every step,
We shall go to and fro. Weapons sharpened, armor fixed. The horses tied near the tree line. The captain had prepared his men. None of them had faced a dragon before. But regardless, the captain gave a rousing speech. The soldiers, feeling ready, were prepared for the infiltration of Mount Thar. Soman had noticed that Alzari had not spoken during the conversation and the great rousing between their company. Are you all right? Alzari glanced at him from the side.
I suppose.
Well, I know that this is not something you would have perhaps wished for yourself. But I promise you, Alzari began to look upon him. I promise that this is destiny. Great things will come from this, whether life or death. For a moment she did not speak, but in the silence she purred.
Well, we best go in.
With the smile, Soman rallied them together, and Boric led the way. The mountain was quite treacherous. Though there were paths carved into the sides and back of the mountain, they were quite still treacherous. Due to age and time and season, some of the paths were closed off, while others were simply too treacherous to cross over.
I thought I would know our way around a little bit more. There's just too many roads. They lead all kinds of directions.
Well, we'll keep finding one. There has to be a way into the mountain. I know that there are secret passages into forges and sometimes chambers of the king. This is the best route. I'm sure of it. Taking the left road, they continued their journey. Each step felt heavier than the next. Wait a moment. I think I found something. Wait. Borg began to touch a wall on the rocky face of the mountain. The cracks and the crevices did not seem to be anything important, but to the eye of a dwarf, even one who was not a craftsman nor miner, could pick out the small, slight details in the wall. Ah, yes, this be it. I think I found a passageway. A passageway? What kind? I'm not sure, but you best stand back. This is old dwarven magic. You, Toko, I'll need your help. Toko stepped forward, his staff beginning to glow, the presence of magic in the air.
Yes, I sense it.
Yes, all right. Put your staff at the base of the rock. Just the butt of it. Yes, that's it. And now, when I say these words, I need you to chant them after me. All right?
I understand.
Now, Divor Kori Harokun, the wall lighting up with magic runes. Toko repeated the words. And again, Boric chanted. Dirakul Aronur. Over and over and over again, they repeated the chant to one another. Hypnotic it was. The company stared in awe and amazement as rune after rune appeared on the stony wall, glowing in fierce blues and greens and golds. Then, with the final word, the door opened. Well, I guess we better go in. Do we have a plan? Each of them looked at each other, and for a moment, no one said a thing. But Soman began to look over as his thoughts raced, staring right towards Alzari. I think I might have a plan. The air was thick and musty. Not a single shine except down the tunnel stretch could be seen. The rest dark and shadowy. And as she went deeper and deeper, she came to a bottom. The sight was so amazing, so bright and glamorous. Coin after coin, golden and silver, bronze and copper, jewels and gems as large as one's head and as beautiful as the starry sky. It was immeasurable. Mountains of gold, hills of treasure and silvers. It could not be overstated. The gold in this mountain could last lifetimes upon lifetimes to nurture and heal lands afar. Alzari looked at it, her mouth open and wide, amazed at the sight. She could not help but touch it. Reaching towards the gold, she took a handful of coins, but then stopped. Looking up, she looked around. Could there really be a dragon in this mountain? She thought. Her ears peeked around, moving left to right, sensing if there was anything. Seeing nothing, sensing nothing, she put the gold into her pocket. Standing up, she gazed upon the chamber. Column after column after column stood throughout the mighty innards of the mountain. There seemed to be all kinds of passages and chambers that go into the subsections of the mountain. But she knew why she was there. Taking small steps across the gold, she softly and stealthily moved across the hills, looking for any space where there was no gold, in order to take softer steps. But there were not many to spot. As she continued forward, she began to smell something. A rich odor filled the air. It was not the musty smell, nor the gold metallic ting that was in the air before. No. It was a strange smell, like that of an animal. It was both foul and stark. Something about it was old and familiar. Alzari had smelt it before. In the deserts, there were many creatures that you could encounter. But there was one she could not mistake. One that when she was almost caught by guards in the deserts, something had come and killed them as she got away. It was a smell that was dry and sticky. And though it was a vicious smell, it was distinct. Dragon. The gold shimmering, something began to move in the hills. Something big. It seemed to stretch all throughout the chamber, past 6, 7 columns. Lifting out of the gold, a red mass with blackened scales on its back came slithering out of the shell of gold.
I smell you.
Alzari halted, hiding behind a column. She'd only gotten a glimpse of what it was, and a glimpse was enough to know that this was a dangerous moment.
I know that smell. It smells like Jita.
Alzari shivered. his voice a deep, rich, and powerful cadence. It was as if the gold was alive, shimmering in fire, hot, blazing fire.
Come out, little one. Come out. Step into the light. I wish to see you.
Alzari took small steps to the side of the column, worried she might be spotted. She crouched, and with the skill she had learned in the deserts, began to crawl across the gold, matching every step that Dragius would make, so as to not have her sound be noticed.
Where are you?
The chamber echoed. The room shook. Alzari, taking her steps, made her way past the back legs of the dragon. She saw more of him. His long, withering tail. As it moved, it sounded like a small storm humming in the distance. His legs, thick, tall, and large. They looked like giant wolf or bear claws. No fear, but black and red scales. They were thick, and the claws black and large. He moved across the gold, four-legged, large, impressive wings, and his face most ferocious. He had large horns. They looked like that of a demon, his eyes blazing like an ever-going fire, with black slits like the pits of a dark cave. And his mouth, long and large. It looked as though one bite could swallow a man whole. He looked across the chamber, moving about, his scales shimmering on his belly, for the gold had been stuck to him for so long that it had become one with his scales.
I will find you. I will have you. There are no thieves, no beggars in my halls.
Alzari continued to creep, her breath getting heavier and heavier, quicker and quicker. She could feel her mind racing. She could feel the presence of the dragon. It was in the room, like a smoke, too hard to breathe through, the fear creeping in her heart.
Wait.
She stopped. What could it be?
I see you.
Alzari turned and looked back. He was right behind her, his face 5 feet away, his body taking up her entire line of sight.
What are you doing in here, my pet?
Alzari, trying to take a stand, could barely get up. Her breath had become so vacant from her, she could hardly breathe.
I have come to gaze upon your magnificence. I have heard the legends of
Of what?
your power and great and awesome.
Awesome what? Keep speaking. It's the only thing that will keep you alive.
Azari, lost for words, noticed something moving behind Dragius. Something tall, something thin. It was Toko. Toko was moving right behind Dragius, behind his back leg. And as he approached, Toko's staff began to glow.
Yes. What is it?
Azari, regaining her thoughts, turned back to Dragius.
I've come to witness you, to see you so I may tell my children, when they are born, of the power and the greatness of a legend like yourself.
And are you impressed?
Dragius rose his head, reaching up towards the ceiling. He was larger than she even could imagine, larger than she had previously seen. It was as if he had grown an entire size.
Truly, it is amazing. I would not dare to displease thee.
No, you will not. For I know why you are here.
The fur on the back of Azari's neck began to stand. She could sense there was something far worse inside this mountain than they could realize. Toko, standing behind Dragius, lifting up his staff, began to chant. Dragius, noticing the cry, stopped in his speech. Turning his head, he noticed the glow of the mage. Widening his eyes, he roared.
You are an insult fool.
In a moment, they all sprung up from the gold hills and charged the dragon. Zoman slammed his hammer as hard as he could against the dragon's back leg. Boric as well, stabbing his spear into the front right leg of the dragon. The soldiers, rushing out, did the same to the other legs, and Andriel used several arrows, hitting towards the dragon's eyes and face, most of which bounced off.
That's it! That's it! Go on, Toko! Use your spell!
They continued to slash at the dragon's legs as quickly as possible, for Dragius did not move. Toko, finishing his spell, began to create a dark, stormy cloud above him, and in one fall swoosh, Toko cried,
Go back to the dark caves.
The top ceiling split. Fragments of rock broke and fell, breaking and breaking, with Saman crying,
Fall back! Fall back!
all of them rushing out of the way. Dragius looked above, and the rocks fell upon him. Rocks crying down upon him, Dragius screamed and roared. And then silence. The dust settled. Nothing could be heard for a moment. With a spell,
Toko brushed the dust away, and what could be seen was a large pile of stone.
Oh, we did it,
one of the soldiers said.
I can't believe it,
another said.
Are we sure that it's finished?
The captain replied. Toko took a few steps towards the pile of stone. He noticed that not all of the guards were able to get out of the way. 2 or 3 soldiers had fallen.
Hopefully, their deaths were not in vain.
Toko tapped the rock with his staff. Feeling that nothing had moved, he tapped harder.
I am not so certain that this is over.
Boric rushed over to Soman. It is not all right. It's not all right. He's done this kind of devilry before. It happened.
Did you think that a few rocks and pebbles would bring me down?
Everyone looked, gazing upon the thing before them, Dragius rising from the dust and the dirt. The rocks did not crumble him, nor scar him. He was furious. In one moment, he breathed flame. The fire scorched the rest of the soldiers, and the captain fell, jumping to the side, with a few scathing flames hitting his side.
Run!
But it mattered not. With one step, Dragius crushed the captain before his feet. All of them, standing in fear and amazement, began to take action. Anriel loosed 5 more arrows upon the dragon. But 3 bounced off as the other 2 barely chipped into his scales. Alzaris jumped up and began to run across the golden hills away from Dragius. Soman, noticing this, fell in horror as he noticed that everything was falling apart. Ulrich, filled with a sudden sense of courage, took the arm of Soman and cried, "We have to get going! Come on, laddie! We got to move!" Jumping to the side, they ran behind the column to hide. Toko, casting another spell to protect him and Andriel. A wave of flame hit the energy, blasting blues and reds across the room. Dragius, turning his head and shifting his body, began to shake the room with every step. He saw the mage.
There is no escape, little mushroom.
Unhinging his jaw, a river of fire came spitting out of Dragius's throat, hitting against the magic shield spell that Toko had casted. Anriel, preparing another set of arrows, stood her ground with as much courage as she could muster. Behind, Soman and Boric began to prepare for another charge. Preparing their weapons, they moved out from the column and striked. Boric ducked below the tail of the dragon and charged right at his leg, stabbing right at it, but the halberd broke and shattered. Even the pole of it broke in half, and to Boric's dismay, he fell back when the dragon shifted its foot.
Soman lifted his hammer and began to hit against it. For you damn beast! Lifting his hammer again, he slammed it upon the beast, and yet it acted as if nothing had happened. It too, shifting its other leg, pushed back Soman, hitting him against a column. The dragon, unleashing its final drips of flame, turned to Borg. Borg lifted his body and stared right at the eyes of the drake. You're going to die for my bloodline, you beast. For my kin.
Indeed.
Borg stared at the dragon in disbelief, but also horror. What do you mean? Oh, why do you laugh so? You demon. Dragius lifted his head slightly and turned it, as if he were looking at him like a dog, confused at the statement.
What do you even mean, my friend? This was all meant to happen.
What do you mean it was meant to happen?
Do you not know? Is it not clear by now? I am the one who orchestrated this movement.
Everyone looked up. The spell dissipated, and Toko lifted up Anriel, and they peered at the dragon.
Do you not know?
Dragius looked at his audience before him.
I suppose you were all too foolish to have foreseen it.
Foreseen what? Suman inquired.
Well, let me enlighten you upon a piece of information.
Dragius began to swirl around them, crawling around them like a snake about to make its strike.
I know of what has been occurring in the kingdom. I know of the going abouts of the king. And I waited patiently for this time to come.
A time for what?
A time to unleash my power. I know of the gold and jewels that slither through the city streets. I know of the dark desires of the king, his fears, and his distresses.
All of them began to shiver. All of them began to look upon each other, for they knew something terrible was in the voice of the dragon. The truth.
You see, I had come across a great artifact when I had come to these mountains, and it showed me the truth. It showed me everything. The king and his line have forever feared my presence. Ever fearing, ever glaring at my kingdom, my mountain. It is me that I am their bane, as I was with Thoric and his pathetic line. Even now, I am before his descendant.
They glanced at Borg, who had become pale and sweaty. He looked at them and looked at Dragius and realized what he meant. No, it cannot be. I do not know my father's line. That line is... We are not kingly.
You are kingly. The line of Thoric had fallen many years ago, but its blood now lives on. Why else did so long feel so
to bring you all here. No. Yes. I know your name. I know all of your names. For the eyes of the king. And I know you, dwarf. For I have seen you in my dreams. All of them began to feel the fear quicken through their heart, pounding and pounding, with every word dripping from the dragon's snout. It was I who orchestrated the visions. I sent them to Suman and the king. I wish to bring all of you, for I knew that the dwarf would not take the word of the king. He is not a warrior. He would not even know, for the secrecy of the king had hidden it. But I knew you would bring them. A crusade across the sea, miles and months of dredging through the snow and the wastes of the north. I am the one who brought you here. Oh yes, Suman. I am your destiny.
But why? Why would you do this? What have you to gain?
The dwarf, of course. I swore that I would get rid of every last miserable, filthy dwarf that came from this mountain. They had used their spears and harpoons, crossbows and battering bolts. My vengeance would be sweet, and I would cut down every dwarf from his line. And when I devoured him, after burning him slowly to reveal his sons, I led them here in foolish crusades. But I could not get the last few. No. They had hid in the north. And now, since you had lost every knowledge of your line, you knew not that this mountain would be your end. And now, bringing you all here, though difficult, I have waited for a fight that would be worthy of me.
Silence fell across the room. All of them filled with horror, having known that they had caused this. They knew it was their doom and their end.
Now, how would you like to die?
In a moment of great speed, and a leap of great faith, a blade glistened in the light for a moment and slashed at Dragius's wing. His roar filled the chamber. Shaking his wing furiously, Alzari fell to the golden piles, fell hard, barely being able to get up. But as Dragius looked across the room, he then realized what he would do. His eyes fixed upon the banner, partly burnt.
I know what I would do instead. For I knew that this will be far greater.
All of them looked up and saw what he was staring at. "No," Soman cried. "They are innocent!"
Matar is as guilty as any. They didn't even come to save the dwarves.
out of their fear and greed for their gold.
Toko, acting quickly, generated fire from the staff, shooting a fireball across the room towards the face of the dragon.
You mage, I will kill you.
Flames dripped from his mouth and poured right towards Toko. Toko, quickly acting, used the power of the winds and blew the flames back. But they would not keep them back for long.
Oh, mage, you do tighten my spirit.
Whacking the hill of gold, knocking back Andril and Toko, they fell to their backs. Dragius then turned to Soman. Soman reached up with his hammer and hit the dragon in the face. His jaw unhinged and he screamed, for he did not expect the Nord to be so strong in will and fist.
I've had enough. I will take flight.
Dragius, moving with every step, broke column after column, and with one final whip, hit his tail against the gold, and knocked all of them across the room.
I will come back for you, dwarf, for I will know where you are.
Bursting through the gates of the mountain, it shook the entire chamber. Dragius had taken flight, and his sights were on Matar. Everyone stood, attending to the wounds and the bruises upon each of them. They were lucky to have gotten out alive. Soman dropped to the floor. I have failed them. I have failed all of you. Tears began to pour down his face. As Andril comforted him, Bolric and Toko stood in pity and fear and in despair. I cannot believe what we have done.
It is true. The nightmare that the king had seen has come forth. It is too late, no.
Too late.
Alzari creeped closer.
It is not too late, my friends, for I have found the source of his power.
Tossing to the ground in a black cloth, torn from her own garb, a glow, golden and bright, shone forth from the cloth.
Though I may be a thief, I do not feel it is my right to take this blade, for it continues to whisper at my ears. So painful.
I hear it too.
I as will.
All of them, hearing the humming, the cry, stepped closer. Soman recognized its voice. It's the voice from my dream.
Yes, I have called you here. I have chosen
my king.
Borg, sensing the presence and power of the blade, reached out and pulled out a golden sword, glowing brighter than the day, carved with emblems of the lion inside the blade handle. The lion bore a gem, red as blood, inside of its mouth. Gems lined along the hilt and across the blade. The glow brought hope into each of their hearts. I cannot believe it. Not only am I king, or descended from Thoric, I am holding a sword of destiny. And indeed he was. For though the dragon had foreseen all things through the blade, the line of different kings, he, however, could not see the destiny of heroes who were meant to find it. We must go and save Matara. He's right. We owe them that much. I would rather die in the city streets fighting against that beast than die in this mountain with shame. Then we must go.
Till the end.
One last time.
The city, filled with singing and laughing and cheering, was lit with the festival of the night. The king, retiring to his chambers, relieved that tonight perhaps there would be no more nightmares, no more dreams of fire and darkness. And indeed this was true, for it would not be a dream any longer, but a reality more frightening than any one man could imagine. For thus we see that destiny is often brought about by those who try to avoid it, and those who try to seek it must continue to fight.